Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Biology Skills Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NAIA, NJCAA, and a growing number of NCAA coaches to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 4-minute, 40-shot test can be taken free today on the Biology mobile app. Elevate your game. Since I've known you, especially with PGC and just listening to you teach, I feel like you're just such an intentional person with the things that you do, who you listen to, what you read, and now becoming a head coach, kind of making that transition 18 inches over, in that seat. What are some of the daily habits that set you up for success?
Yeah, the first one I honestly would say is just the ability to practice gratitude. I am a man of faith, right? So, I pray a ton, and I'm very grateful for what I've been blessed with. And furthermore, with that, I read a ton. I try to read the Bible on a consistent basis, not as much as I would like to. There's definitely times where I'm reading more, and you carve out that time. But I do that on a consistent basis. That's been a definitely a staple for me for a long time now. But just the practice of overall gratitude, especially in the morning, is something that really just sets my mindset where it needs to be. It varies day to day. Like some days I think about certain things that are specific, whether it's thinking about some of my players, I think about some of my past coaches that have blessed me, or just thinking about what I get to wake up and do, but just really setting my mindset around being grateful for is just always has set my approach to whatever's coming my way.
Yeah, I don't know, but if you felt this, I know from at some point in my day, I try to be in the Word. And
Yeah.
I used to be where it's got to be in the morning. And then I realized, and mono actually helped me with this, like start slow in your morning, but not everything has to happen right then.
Right.
And so at some point in my day, I want to be in the Word. And it's amazing to me is that when I am consistent with that, it's not that life is perfect, but it's that I'm able to handle that adversity in a better way. It
No
doesn't
doubt.
bog me down the same. Have you felt that as well?
100%. And it gives you like just to continue that sense of like, okay, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be okay. Whatever's coming your way. And then I I do know, and I'll go the opposite of you a little bit here. Is I can tell the difference when I haven't been as much in the Word as I would like, and when
Yeah.
certain things are coming up, and you don't feel as maybe as rooted or as focused. So I would agree with you on that
Yeah.
100%.
Being at a Christian high school, I mean, we can talk about our faith, and we're kind of mandated to do that, to have that
Yeah,
infusion in everything that we do. And anytime things are going really bad for a player, I always start with, how's your walk? Because I
yeah,
feel like those two things kind of go hand in hand when life just feels so big and these problems are just too much. I'm probably just looking at it from a human perspective,
that's so good.
and not which the other perspective is great, which not that none of this matters, but it doesn't,
Right.
like
Yeah, 100.
wins, losses, jobs, this or that. It's more on those little things. Are we being faithful? And
Yeah.
whose identity really do we lie? Like that's where it helps.
Yeah, no doubt. That's such a great question to start with, especially, you talking about that age group of your students and of your players, right? That 14 to 18, right? And them getting to hear that question and them getting to reflect on that question on a consistent basis at that age, man, that's really awesome. That's really really awesome to hear.
Gratitude, it is such an important attitude to have. Uh,
Yeah.
is there something that you intentionally do? I mean, you mentioned just kind of thinking about it, or like, is it you write things down? You have some people that are a kind of a list that you want to go through? Is there an organization to your gratitude? Or, I mean, it could be just as simple as, I just wake up and whoever just pops in my head, that's kind of who I think about.
Yeah, I've done gratitude journals before. It usually for those. I journal better in the summertime for
Mm,
whatever reason, just kind of how my schedule flows. But one of the things that I do is anytime I'm leading a gratitude session, and so I'm blessed here at Wilmington College. Obviously, I lead our team, and we go through gratitude sessions. But I also do them. I teach a couple classes here. I teach a couple courses here, and all of them, every single day that I teach a class, we always start off with a moment of gratitude.
Because
Um,
Professor Mills is who I'm
yeah, so
talking to right here.
there is Professor Mills. Yeah, that is correct. Um, and anytime that I do a gratitude session with my players, with my students, I always participate in the gratitude session, and that has helped me just a ton to stay focused on that. So whether it's, hey, think of somebody you would like to send a message to that needs to hear from you today about why you appreciate them. I'm going to do the exact same. Sometimes we do a list, sometimes we do a group share, whatever. But I always partake in all of our gratitude shares. So it's definitely more, I would say, definitely not as detailed and structured, a little more abstract, but on a consistent basis. Yeah.
That's a cool idea, though, to take your team through is a gratitude session. Yeah, just kind of walk me through what that looks like from with your team.
Yeah. I actually, one of the questions you kind of had had me look over a little bit was like, what's a great, our team culture activity that I've done
Yeah.
with my team. And that honestly has been one of the better team culture activities I feel like we do are our gratitude shares.
Mm.
And so typically we do them after workouts, and we'll just get together in a small group, and I have them do it on their own first, whether it's a individual person or whether it's a question. Like, one of the big questions that I really like is, what is setback, a trial, a struggle that you've overcome, that now that you've overcame it, you're thankful, you're grateful that you got through it, and what's the lessons that you took from it. And to get our guys to, number one, to think about that and really have their mindset kind of fixed on that type of approach to situations, and then to get them to be vulnerable and to share. I always see just our team just get a little bit closer, right, and a little bit closer every single time. um, and so that's typically how I set it up. I usually have it after a workout. I'll have them either pull out their phone or pull out their team notebook, depending on where we're at and things, and then have them do it individually on their own, and then we'll put them in this like small groups, and I have them share in their small group, and then I oftentimes will say, all right, hey, somebody share, something that you really like that your teammates share to the whole team.
Mm.
And so say Matt shares about Micah that how he overcame such and such, and it kind of just continues to connect those dots and just get the team a little bit closer.
I
Um,
love that. I think so many times when we think of culture building activities, we think of these grand gestures, going to a lake house,
right,
bringing parents in, writing
right,
things down, and but sometimes part of culture building activities are also things that are repeatable. You do often, and they can be as easy as in a circle talk. Like I got from TJ was Thankful Thursdays, and
yes,
we do it before our athletic period, which is at 9 o'clock in the morning. I get 43 minutes a day, and we do Thankful Thursdays, and I'm always amazed. You probably feel the same. Of
yeah,
our practices are the best, our workouts are the best when we start with that gratitude.
hmm yeah, and TJ. I'm thankful to have known TJ and spend a lot of time with him and to be able to pick his brain and kind of how he has kind of certain different words for each day, and just those small, like you said, those small little segments do so much. And it's really been an approach that I've kind of taken and adopted, is just that culture, like you said, it's not this big grand thing. It's truly like every little thing that you do, and that's so important, of just doing it every single day. And it would be one thing to do a gratitude session right on November 10th, but then if you don't do another one till February 4th, well then it doesn't matter. But that consistent approach, like you said earlier, of doing it consistently and it's repeatable, that's when I've seen the difference. Yeah.
And from a coaching standpoint too, through the gratitude sessions, you get to see a little bit behind or a glimpse into really where your players' hearts are at, where their minds at. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes one of my players, I'm thankful for Chick-fil-A. And I don't tell him, hey, that's dumb. Say
Yep.
something else. But like, that's really where he's at. Like,
Yep.
he's on that level emotionally right now. Or then you can hear, I'm really thankful that my grandfather is with us, because they dive into another thing that you might not even know. And then if you do it often enough, you get to really have a good, I think coaches talk about the pulse of their team,
Yeah.
having a good idea of where they're at. I think gratitude sessions often will help you to have a good pulse or grip on where your team's at.
Yeah, so good. And it's always you knowing where your individual where your players are at is how you build out those real relationships. And I still remember, this was about 2 years ago, and I've been fortunate. So Coach Casey Hunt was the former coach here at Wilmington College, who I worked for these last 6 years now. And he let me do a lot of stuff with our culture. So I've been able to do kind of some of these things in the past, a ton of. And I remember a couple years ago I shared about I was just really grateful for my grandfather and why, and at the time, I unbeknownst to me, one of my players' grandfathers back home had just gotten to the hospital, and it was not
Mm.
looking well at all. And it just built a connection with us. And I remember he came up to me afterwards and he was like, "Coach, you man, like how you feel about your grandpa is like how I feel about mine." And it just really just bonded us in that moment. And it was just cool for me to think of like, yo, like we wouldn't have did that. Like, yeah, I talk about my grandparents at times, but he wouldn't have known, he wouldn't have felt that. And then now I can empathize with him a little bit more about what he's going through. And he felt comfortable being able to share that his grandpa was going through some challenges and how that's been upsetting him, type of thing. So definitely gives you a pulse on your team, and it helps you build those personal relationships.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.